We're going to be talking about the cost of living here in Nashville, Tennessee. And wait a minute, this is going to be the most objective video ever because we actually ran a deep research project and we found out what you guys are searching most, what you are most worried about when it comes to the cost of living here in Nashville, Tennessee. So we have 4 sections built out for you guys today. One, we're going to be talking about those expected costs, right? Homes, property taxes. Section 2, this is where we get a little bit in the weeds here, a little dirty. We get in the unexpected costs. These are things that completely threw me off, and Mitzi's got some incredible stories on this. Number 3, this might be my favorite. This is the top 3 searches that you guys are searching, or people in general are searching about moving to Nashville. So we're going to answer those questions honestly and objectively. Lastly, is it still cheaper to move here than other states? So we're going to give you that perspective. It's going to be completely objective. You will hear the real deal cost of living in Nashville, Tennessee. We got to get in here to section number 1, and that is the expected costs that will shock you. So right out of the home prices aren't as cheap as they were a few years ago. I want actually you to talk about, because I think people most likely know that house prices have gone up, but the last year we've seen a little bit of maybe just some easing, but there's probably some areas that have really grown. But where do you feel like the median prices are and the current market is doing for people looking to buy a house?
Yeah, I mean, that is so subjective because it moves, it varies from area to area. The reality is a lot of people are priced out as far as like moving to some of the top places that we're seeing searched, such as Franklin, Brentwood, Nashville proper. A lot of those places have just had this big explosion in growth, and people are coming in and they're oftentimes even overpaying for homes in some very desirable areas in Mount Juliet, all of it. So all that to say, there are still areas that are more cost effective. The best thing that you can do is reach out, because we're going to show you how you can get close to areas that are important to you as far as commuting for work, restaurants, best schools, things like that, but still keep you within what you're looking to spend.
So with that being said, the other aspect to this is what kind of caught me off guard, because you think of all the Sun Belt and these southern states and they're so cheap, and man, that sticker shock of some of the Nashville suburbs, the main ones, it's more expensive than where I came from. But yes, once you get a lay of the land and you learn kind of the pocket communities, and like, man, you can find some just incredible community. For me personally, husband, 3 young kids, wife, like we needed a good place where the kids could run free, do their things, great sports, the schools, all that, and we were able to find it. That's what we want to help you with. But the other aspect of this was we do get people reaching out who want some land. They're like, oh, I want Tennessee. I want that 3 acres, 5 acres. And it's tough and it's expensive. And people hold on to that land like it's the last thing they're ever going to give up, right? So those are things that you have to really understand. The second part of section 1 is the property taxes. Now that was awesome. They are super duper low here compared to other places. And for any Texas residents out there, you totally understand. I mean, it's like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars cheaper, but that's kind of a known. The property taxes are lower, but here's what I want people to know. Williamson County, Franklin, so it can really shift with different counties and stuff. That's where they can get caught off guard, right?
Absolutely. So we have seen this sharp increase in property taxes in Davidson County, for example. Davidson County, that's Nashville, that's parts of Brentwood. There's even parts of Mount Juliet that actually fall in Davidson County. So really, really important to know where you're actually purchasing. And also, you can be affected by both city and county taxes. So obviously, you're going to pay county taxes no matter what. And to your point, Jackson, that varies greatly from city to city. But you may have both city and county taxes, depending on whether or not you're within the city lines or whether or not you're out in the county.
Is that something also that, you're doing with all these clients? A lot of people reaching out. That's probably a big discussion, and you can really hone in on the map and go, hey, look, let's just pull up, through the MLS. You can see all that. Is that something you can show?
It's so easy because where where I come from, the property taxes are dependent on sales price. So if I buy a house for, say, $500,000 in Sacramento, and I know that my property taxes are, 1.1% of that, then I know exactly what I'm going to pay, $5,500 per month or per year. And then I can divide that by 12 and it's easy math. But here, whatever is showing on that tax record, that is going to be the same tax that the next buyer is going to pay until those taxes are reassessed. So obviously there are some unknowns because, for example, the residents of Davidson County didn't necessarily know that there was going to be this tax hike that was going to take place. So there was definitely some pushback in the community in regards to that. But, depending on where you guys are looking, we can show you the differences between like Murray, Williamson, Rutherford, Wilson, all these different counties.
So we're going to jump right into section 2 again. Section 4 is probably the one you need to hold on to. And before I do that, my name is Jackson Wilkie, and Mitzi Dela Cruz is my partner over here. We are the Living in Nashville relocation team. We love when you guys reach out. And if you're loving our videos, go ahead, hit that like button. That's the only thing that helps our videos. So with that being said, Section 2 is unexpected or hidden costs. I'm going to throw this right at you. I know this kind of rings a bell with you, but what about private school? It's really common here, and it can be pretty expensive.
Absolutely. And that was something that we definitely looked at when we moved here. But I mean, to your point, it is expensive. One of the great things is there is a very big homeschool community. There's a ton of support. So some people who were initially looking at going the private school route segue into more of a homeschool hybrid or online model where they're still able to get their kids engaged with other families and things like that, but they're able to avoid those costs. But you mentioned hidden costs, and so I just want to talk about from a female perspective. One of the things I wasn't expecting is that the cost of nails, the cost of hair, that does cost more here. One of the few things that does cost more, and so I certainly wasn't expecting that. And then also from a homeowner point of view, coming from a very dry, lack of humidity environment, termites were not as big of an issue where I come from as they are here. So you're having to get regular pest maintenance on your house. It's definitely more of a concern with these humid temperatures and things like that. And so that is something that costs more. Lawn maintenance costs more because you're having to mow your grass a lot more frequently. If you're not mowing it yourself, you're paying somebody to come in and mow. So that was a cost we didn't expect. And then I'll leave you with the last one would be you've got to replace your roof more frequently here. And the reason is because we do have those high winds. So you've got, obviously not just the tornadoes, but we can have really windy conditions and the weather can be really tough on your roof. So that is a hidden cost that we certainly didn't expect.
And that's actually such a good point. You knocked off like 4 of my points, so you just completely spoiled the video. I mean, we're screwed here. But what's funny about that is that's something that is almost advantageous of this time, right? Summer of 25. If you're watching this in the future, things may change, but with it being more towards a buyer's market right now, that's one thing that you need to be looking at with Mitzi is, hey, I love this location. I love that house. That's how old's the freaking roof? Because it could be something that we could negotiate in to help, get repaired. Because you don't want to get hit with a $20,000, $30,000 cost, So those are things too that when we get inspections, we can actually see the age of that roof. So make sure you guys are asking Mitzi that. Yeah, she talked about, pest controls and stuff. You always got somebody mowing your lawns, and there's certain developments we go into that have HOAs that take care of that. But here's from a male's perspective, you gave the female, I'm gonna give the utility costs, like the heating, it can get so hot for such a long time here. And I come from the Northwest where we just open the windows up at night in the summer and blow cold air in, then you shut the windows, and that was kind of cooling it down. But here it can get hot and not cool down at night. Of course, your energy bills will go up. But here's the thing I didn't know. Those AC units run a lot more. Growing up, my dad was always just like, hey, every 3 months or every 4 months, change them filters, son, change them. Here it's like every 3 to 4 weeks, because when they're just running those AC units in the summer, you got to make sure that those filters get changed out, because that can go, and we've seen houses where they're so clogged up that the dang things are whistling, so that can ruin the HVAC system. That can be huge upfront costs. So these are things that, like, once you come down here, you're going to want to, really check that. And maybe some of the California places you're used to that, but I was not. So with that being said, we're going to get right into section 3. Now, this is actually something that we did a deep research project on, and we found out what you guys were searching the most. So it came down to really 3 of them that we're going to answer. And I think it's going to help you guys, overall with everything. But real quick, again, we really appreciate all you viewers and people that are reaching out. If you would, hit that like button. Again, comment down below. What are you most afraid of? What cost are you thinking about the most when moving here, so that we can do a future video on that? In fact, if you guys give us a bunch of those in the comments, we'll just go, turn around and shoot another video on that. Is it still affordable to live in Nashville, Tennessee? I mean, it's as broad as it gets, right? But that is the number one question that's being searched on Reddit boards, Facebook page, all of that. So Mitzi, what do you say about that?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. And like I said, it really depends on where you are going to call home. My family and I were back in Sacramento for about a week and a half, a couple weeks ago, and we were comparing gas prices, for example. We paid over $5 a gallon and then come back here and we're paying under $3. So I'm taking pictures of the gas pump and I'm sending it to everyone back in Sacramento. And of course, they're like, oh my gosh, you bragger. But that's just one example. In addition, you'd mentioned air conditioning and that kind of driving up the cost of utilities. I'm still paying a fraction of what I was paying in California for utilities. So I still feel like it's a huge win. It's one of the reasons that solar is not a big industry here. It's really unnecessary. The cost of power is still pretty affordable here. And so it's definitely below the national average. So things like that. Where you will pay a little bit more is sales tax. But I feel like even if you're paying 1% or 2% higher than what you're ordinarily paying wherever you're living now, still to me, that's something you can control, right? So obviously you do have to buy certain items to live and to have what you need. But, if you're not comfortable paying those sales taxes, then you can control that with the amount of items you're buying and things like that. But to me, I'd much rather have that and pay a little more for goods and commodities and things like that than to pay for state income tax and things like that. And one other thing I'll mention for people that don't know, Tennessee will look at the budget at right around in the fall to see if there's a surplus. If there's a surplus, and this has happened every year that we've been here, may not have happened this last year, but I think it did, but don't quote me on that, is that they will actually stop sales tax on food from August all the way through November. So you have this time period, like a 3-month window where you're stocking up for the holidays and things like that, where there's no tax on food, which is awesome.
Which is one of the coolest things, but I think it's very strategic too, because I thought about it and I'm like, dude, you just go gung-ho. Now you go shop like crazy, and but it's smart because it feeds the businesses, so I don't know if it's an orchestrated plan or not, but pretty cool. The next question actually is, where can I live near Nashville on a budget? So we're not going to go just super cheap affordable, but median home, get a really nice home in a good area. That's probably what people are searching and wanting to know the most. Maybe 2-3 areas that you would kind of recommend for something like that gives them the lifestyle, gives them best bang for the buck, and is just kind of an up and come in a really cool place.
Yeah, so for me, my top one is Fairview, and I'm going to tell you guys that one, people are really actually looking at Fairview as a desirable place to live. Schools, cost of living, all of those things, and it really gives you that tight-knit community feel. Nolensville, we're seeing a ton of people gravitating to Nolensville, White House, Mount Juliet, even Murfreesboro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually that's question number 3 that came up was Nashville versus Murfreesboro cost of living. So I think, Murfreesboro's been one that's been on the map and the radar for a while. Sometimes we shoot these videos and the ones that are just starting to really pop up and people are like, whoa, I didn't even know that was there. Murfreesboro's probably one that it's kind of like a versus one. And that's because you can't really go Nashville versus Franklin or the main staples. It's like, hey, I keep hearing about this Murfreesboro. It seems like it's got an awesome little downtown square and it's got a vibe to it. But what is kind of that cost difference? Have you had any clients move out there and what have they said?
Yeah, well, I think that the buyer that's looking for actual Nashville proper versus someone that's wanting to be kind of in a suburb is very different. So the first thing that I would tell you is, again, you're going to really save on those property taxes. Rutherford County has some exceptional schools. There's definitely some more rural areas that surround Murfreesboro, but are still within Rutherford County. And so you're going to get that smaller city vibe, and the cost of living is going to be lower than Nashville, where you're paying those higher taxes and things are just a little more expensive overall.
Yep. So last but not least, we have Section 4, and this is kind of the good news. What costs are still cheaper, than most states? And you already kind of mentioned it, but it was this no state income tax. And I actually you came from California, which we know is a highway. And then I actually came from the state of Oregon, two, West Coast states that have just like astronomical state income tax. So that was a huge adjustment, a positive adjustment for me.
Definitely. And then, there's other things. Like, what I love is that 9 times out of 10, the things that Tennessee does, they just make sense. So for example, to register my car, when I first got here, and you might take that for granted, in California, you go to the DMV and you go to the DMV for everything. But when I first got here, I needed new plates and I needed to get a new driver's license. So my new plates, I actually went to the county recorder's office, which blew my mind that that's where you go handle that. The same place that takes care of death certificates, marriage certificates, all of those things. But, you go in, you're in and out, literally. I've never spent more than 10 minutes at the county recorder's office. You get your plates, which registers your car. They're literally hanging on the wall. It's crazy. They're like, oh, this one looks good, and that's your new plate number. But that registers your car for an entire year. It's $55, and then you get that little postcard in the mail. And so I missed the postcard my first year and didn't realize my tags had expired. So I went back to the county recorder's office, and there was no late fee or anything like that. It was just incredible. $55. We were paying upwards of $1,000 a year to register my husband's truck in California. So that was a huge cost savings right off the bat. One of my sons, when we first moved here, he got his permit. He failed the permit test the first time. The woman said, oh, that's going to cost you, I think it was $2.25 for him to attempt to take the test. And I'm like, what? Really? That's it? I thought I heard it wrong. Things like that. There's no Melrose here. So if you're coming from California, I know that different states call that tax that is on new homes and new communities that might be there for 10, 20, 30 years. Different things. So in California, we call it Melrose. That's, what we use to pay for the infrastructure to develop the land around a new community and pay for police officers, firefighters. Here, there's an impact fee. 99% of the builders are absorbing that impact fee, but definitely talk to us because we can just double check that for you. We don't want you to have any hidden costs that are popping up. But all that to say, those are just a couple of examples. But other than that, I kid you not, the only thing that I have found that costs more here is hair and nails.
And that's one of the things my wife talks about. Not only does it cost more, how frustrating was it losing your hair, girl? Because my wife can't find. No, she finally did, but it was 3-4 of it. She would always come back crying. She's a mess. I gotta wash it all out. It's a mess. that hit up Mitzi. Like I said in other videos, she's met everybody here, but the home ownership is actually something. And okay, homes you look online, they can be crazy expensive, but there's pocket areas. But here was the big kicker, especially when I take myself back to the Beaverton, Oregon times, we were, living in a 3-bed, 2-bath townhome with a shared wall, 1,300, 1,400 square foot, something like that. It was an area that we wanted to be in, came down to the schools and just a family-friendly area. You guys know what I'm talking about, and it was so expensive. You're talking $500,000 for something like this and crazy HOA fees, and you get a piece of lawn the size of this microphone. The home ownership, yes, you can run it up 10, 20, 30, 40 million, whatever, 800,000 sometimes can go very quick in certain areas. But some of these pocket communities and areas that we've found, you can get a lot of space. And I think that's kind of the new thing, especially post-COVID. It's you know what? I really want a bigger home and I want a yard. I'm tired of my roof lines touching. And you go to community after community and pocket community and you find these incredible big old homes, and they really, really focus on getting you that at least quarter acre or half acre lot, and some of these communities we go into, once you maybe going up to that step up home, kids are growing, peak careers, and you're in that 700 to 900K range. Like, you can get some of the most insane custom homes on half acres next to all the cool shoppings in the Franklin. It's really remarkable. So, with that being said, budget's number one, right? So from that point, they reach out to you, Mitzi. It's budget. And then from there, you're going to help isolate. Okay, this is where you want to be. After hearing everything from you, these are some of the top areas. Kind of run them through in 30 seconds what that looks like to them.
As far as top areas, like I mentioned, Fairview, Nolensville, Murfreesboro, White House is up and coming, Gallatin, Hendersonville, Columbia is blowing up right now. These are all wonderful communities. I will tell you, it's important to me that I am helping you to look at all angles, not just resale, but also what's up and coming in the area to protect you from, like, if you're buying for that view, let's look at the city plan and see what's coming down the pike as far as future development and things like that might obstruct the view, but also help you coordinate with local professionals. So we're getting you pricing if you need to put a fence up because you've got pets or you're wanting to install a pool. I've got all the connections so you know exactly what that pricing is going to look like, and I can help you navigate from states away.
So navigating all of the costs here in the Nashville area can be difficult, and you need to be able to ask those proper questions, and you need to be able to do it privately. I think that's probably one of the biggest advantages to the team, and what we absolutely love. We need to hear your situation. We want to hear personally from you on a Zoom call. So that is all of our contact information. It's right here. Pause the video, do what you need to do, ask any question, tell us your story, and we can help you to start discovering some areas you possibly never heard of, and most importantly, ruling out a bunch of areas that just won't fit you once we hear that. So again, we invite you to reach out to us days, nights, weekends. We got your back when moving to Nashville. And I don't know if you saw it, but we have a whole playlist right here of some of the most incredible communities to live in Nashville, Tennessee. So check out these videos, find your perfect spot, and then make sure you reach out to us.